What is it going to take for Brandon Ingram to take another leap, another step as a basketball player, as a star, as a superstar, as an all-star caliber talent in this league? I got a guy that I think is perfect for this conversation. Some of y'all know him. Some of y'all don't know him. Let's get into it.
You must know that first. Can't nothing and nobody fade what we trying to do and what we about to do. Second thing is, we got this game on our level. You understand what I'm saying?
Welcome to another episode of In Space. I'm your host, Chris Connor. As always, humble, grateful. Shout out to all our good sponsors here, Birdsall Law Firm, good people at DraftKings Sportsbook. If you have not signed up on our behalf, the code below is BOOT for all of our audio listeners. You have heard this millions and millions of times. BOOT, sign up. Good people at Jägermeister as well. Joining me is one of my best and favorite supporters in my content, I guess, development stages. It's interesting because now he's a retired Twitter veteran. Like he just does regular life civilian stuff, man. Man, my dog has a podcast that I hope returns eventually. It was really good. Temple of Hoop, Laker fan, Cowboy fan, Pelican supporter, objective supporter. For better, for worse.
Ain't that right?
Used to be known as a Pelicans hater by those that don't know him. Jason Maples, what's up, brother?
What is going on, Chris? It's good to be here. Before you can tell, I gotta say the intro. The Birdman intro was fire, bro.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. So I was looking through my content, looking through my catalog, and I was like, man, I haven't talked a whole bunch of Brandon Ingram. Now, me and Maples we've done stuff in the past, but haven't been able to it's been about a year now with the show, and I haven't had to get him on because his life as a coach and as a father is just, I asked him once to try to get him on the show. He like, yeah, like, talking like 9:30 my time. I'm like, damn. Like, yeah, it's midnight while I'm at by then. Like, it's crazy. But we got a chance to make it happen, and I realized I don't have a whole bunch of Brandon Ingram stuff, and I think it's a critical point of his. He's walking into a critical season. We got the FIBA's up. We got the FIBA games upcoming, and could be it's going to be an important season for him, the Pelicans, and everything included. So, who better to have on than Maples? Let's talk about it, man. So, we just saw today Jaylen Brown get $300 million.
And what did I text you? What did I text you?
We go dive strictly into that because, look, man, BI's up for an extension that I believe could be offered as of today. As of I think earlier in the month, the Pelicans were able to offer it, but there's no way that even if they did offer it, BI's injured or in good faith, either should he sign anything right now.
Right.
After end of this season, he'll be eligible for Supermax, and that raises a lot of questions, man. Because and this is why you're good for this conversation, because you see the different conversations that take place, whether it be through Pelicans fans, the supporters, media, national media. It's divided all over the place in regards to where he ranks in this league. So when we put together a title that says what's the next leap for Brandon, what's the next step for him, I guess you got to start with where he currently ranks today in the league as a player. And you don't even have to do as a ranking. Where do you think, as we stand today, reputation, game, and simply amongst his peers, where is BI right now?
So I thought about this. I think you have first that upper tier superstar, Joker, Steph, KD, Giannis. That next tier, I think LeBron now at this stage in his career, the Lucas, the Tatums. I think he's in that third tier of star, not quite superstar, fringe star. He can carry a team offensively in bunches. I think he can get to that second tier, but it's going to take, consistency and more importantly, durability to keep a rhythm. I think he's a rhythm guy. He lathers up, after X amount of games. So I think him staying on the floor is the biggest key. That's for me. And then the consistency. I think the biggest positive for me, which is why I was so upset about the toe, is he was quietly one of the best clutch players in the NBA last year. And it was frustrating because he barely played. So nobody really noticed that he actually fixed the late game struggles. He's actually one of the better guys closing games. I thought that was a big issue, especially with the Pelicans the last couple of years, being leaned on as that guy. He really struggled with it, but this year he was really good. Just he couldn't stay on the floor, so it got overlooked. So I think that's, being able to close games is a huge check off for a star. I think he's got that down. So it's just the durability and being able to show that consistently. And I joked with you, he saw Jaylen Brown get $300 million. He's going to find a way to play 70 games this year. Agent like, hey, man, I know you don't like being out there with a little bit of pain, but hey.
Yeah.
Time to eat.
Yeah, no, man. I mean, and, look, I think when I hear a lot of national guys, and specifically after this year, last season, we had some weird discourse about, one of the things was Brandon being in the same tier as like a Dorian Finney-Smith, and even with context was terrible, right? I mean, it just didn't make any sense. I think even individuals that thought like that worried, or that maybe still worry about his fit with a guy like Zion, just from a winning perspective. I think slowly now it's turned into, all right, we just need to see this dude healthy, right? For even if he's not the 3-point shooter from a volume perspective that most would like him to be, if he's just never that guy.
Well,
go ahead.
My rebuttal to that is always, who without Zion playing is going to create threes for Brandon?
Okay, I like that.
I keep telling you, okay, you want to take more threes? Who has gravity on that team that's going to create shots for him?
Okay,
he's around for he was knocking him down. It's just a low volume. But unless you want to take a bunch of pull-up, sidestep threes off the dribble, which isn't his game, and that's not going to be productive for the team. Who on that team without Zion playing is going to create threes for him?
Right, because in that kind of leads to my next question, because the detractors and those that are unsure where Brandon fits and what he's ultimately worth, right, as a getting paid superstar money going forward, they question, even without Zion, they say, why, when healthy, why don't the Pelicans win more, right? They look at the Oklahoma City game, for example. And this is I'm playing devil's advocate here, right? I'm setting the table up for you here.
I'm ready to Oklahoma City game. Go ahead, please.
No, that's fine. They look at the Oklahoma City game, for example, the playing game, and they say a superstar in this league, a guy that's going to make over $300 million in his next contract, his next contract extension. They say that kind of guy wins that game at home against an Oklahoma City team, for example, right? Now, there's other games and other examples, but what would be your rebuttal for things like that say, all right, if he's this individual, even without Zion, in the games in which he's played, shouldn't the team have more success? And I know where you're going to go with it, but I want you to let our audience hear it.
First of all, let's go around the league, okay? Everybody would call Luka a top 3, top 4 player.
Mm-hmm.
Did he make the playoffs this year?
He did not.
Okay, my thing is you need a team regardless of how LeBron James missed the playoffs last year. You know what I mean? You have it's a team sport. Now digging deeper into the Pelicans' issues, these are things I have lamented for years. Still, terrible spacing. Brandon's learning how to deal with that. Still, bottom end spacing in the NBA. Thank God for Trey Murphy, or it would be in the toilet. That's the one guy who has legit shooting gravity on the team in 2023, which is ridiculous. You look at Sacramento, on the other hand, they got 4 guys on the court who can space the floor at all times. Just they were the 3rd seed. I'll leave it at that. With the terrible defense, mind you. But when you can score like that, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Secondly, I have the center thing. They Jonas was good last year. I'll say he was good last year. This year, Pelicans had some of the worst center play in the NBA consistently. Because Larry's in and out the lineup. Jackson didn't take the leap that was expected athletically. I'm with you. I think he's a second contract guy. He has a chance to pop with the Lakers. Playing alongside AD is kind of ideal for a guy with his skill set. Remember, shades of JaVale in 2020. They did win that year. So, well, that's a never conversation. I think it's a great fit. They need a legit rim protecting center. I've said the same name for about 4 years now. People were laughing at it the first couple of years. They are now starting to come along, especially since the guy had a career year last year after he signed his deal. He still played well. So, I would love to see the Miles Turner thing finally come to fruition. I'm not there to rub it in your face, so you guys can go ahead and get on the page with me. Get Miles Turner in there, get a real center, a rim protecting center who fits. And I've actually argued with a good friend Jeremy with this. I think they need at least a solid point guard. I love Alvarado, but a point guard capable of playing starters minutes. CJ can moonlight as one. I don't know if he's that guy. I also think CJ needs to be healthy. That was the biggest thing for what they needed him to do, especially with the uptick in volume with Zion and Bi missing so much time. He has to be healthy to be able to take on that, and he just wasn't healthy this year. Shoulder and wrist, I believe, or was it? What was it? The shoulder and the
labrum and thumb
on the shooting hand, right?
Yeah,
yeah. So he was just completely jacked up. He tried though, man. I didn't love some of his decision making late in those games down the season. Minnesota was questionable. The OKC game, I think that final possession, he looked off Brandon or something like that late in that game. But I felt CJ. I was like, you cats don't play. I've been playing through all my injuries. Y'all don't want to suck nothing up. I'm gonna take the shot. So part of me felt that in a way, But it is what it is. The biggest thing for the Pelicans, to me, they have all the pieces. It's health. These whole rosters, they need to trade Brandon to reset the finances of the team, and they need to get under the cap line. They have a very good team. They need to stay healthy. It's a very good team. They need to upgrade at center and possibly upgrade at PG. I don't think they're going to move CJ, so that's good. That is what it is. That's wishful thinking. I do think the CJ six-man conversation needs to happen. There's Trey Murphy is a star in the making. He has to start. So I think that's a conversation that needs to be had at some point. I don't know if CJ's ready for that. I get NBA politics are weird like that sometimes. Myself as a Laker fan, the Westbrook situation, you know what I mean? It takes a lot of coaxing and ego stroking to get to that point. But yeah, that's kind of where I am. It's just health. Health is wealth.
I do want to before I move to more individual Brandon related stuff here and pull up some numbers from last year. The point guard comment that you made. Do you think a team with guys that are as skilled as passers and just strictly from a vision perspective and some of the splashes that we've seen, and those numbers will be evident for Brandon here, but with Brandon, we know that for his position, he's one of the best passers for his position, right?
98th percentile playmaker.
Yeah. Like he's elite, and he's gotten better and better as like guys like Trey Murphy has been next to him, kind of helping him with some of the passes in which he's making while he's being double, triple team, so on and so forth, boxing ones, without Zion, right?
Right.
And then with a guy like Zion, we saw the stretch run that he had where he was having 7, 8, 9 assist games. You're still with the mindset that even with guys that have those abilities and will have the basketball in his hands as often as creators, initiators, and playmakers, and that's not even mentioning CJ, you still think that this team could use a point guard, or do you think that?
Well, in this scenario, which was like a pipe dream, you ideally use CJ to get that guard. So CJ wouldn't be a part of it. But so I get it. CJ's not going anywhere. He just signed an extension, I believe. So I get it. I think Alvarado's probably that guy. I think he doesn't actually they missed him a lot, low key. He was a very good table setter, especially when Brandon was off the court. he was able to get guys in spots where they can generate good offense. A lot of times when Brandon was off, without Zion or Jose there, it looked like open gym. Guys just kind of fledgling for offense, because I think what CJ does, he gets in these scoring modes, and I think he doesn't even realize it, where it's like, he's shot hunting instead of creating this playing the game. So I think that's the issue. But if they can keep Jose healthy and then keep Zion and BI healthy, I think it's something that can be looked over. But I think it's a further down on the list of issues I would like to see. The big thing for me is the center position.
Okay, so I want to move forward here to some splits by the month from last season, and I have highlighted there March. February was when he made his return from the toe. The team was still struggling, trying to round into form. You got a few games before All-Star break, and then some games afterwards, of course. But March was when he went on a ridiculous run. That was the guy that we saw, and that was actually a better version, I think, in my opinion, of the guy that we saw in that playoff series against Phoenix. The assists at 7, right? I mean, you get, there were a lot of good rebounding games there. He was very efficient as a scorer. You're looking there almost at 50, 40, 90, just about there. I mean, everything is up. The true shooting is there, and the usage, in all honesty, isn't all of that crazy. He was one of the better players in his league, and you had moments where he's up there going toe to toe with Kawhi, right? That second game against the Clippers, New Orleans, a game that the Clippers had to have, and a game that the Pelicans had to have, and Brandon took it over. With Zion, it's a question mark in regards to fit, and we haven't seen enough games to really see if he'll have the amount of touches and opportunities to be this kind of guy, even if it was needed. But is it simply just help for you? I mean, you mentioned rhythm earlier. Was that month of March the best basketball that you've seen Brandon play? And how do you think you continue to see more of those kind of months going forward? Because to me, that's where the leap kind of rises. If he's anywhere, not even from a statistical, just from an approach, how he was affecting the game every time he stepped on the floor in attack mode, I think you get anywhere close to just that type of individual, he's in a different bracket.
Yeah, and again, that's what's keeping him from that. I think being that second tier guy. Not quite a super duper star, but just like a superstar. Like, hey, you can, this guy can anchor you throughout the season. It's just the health. You got to stay on the floor. I think the rhythm stuff comes. Again, the playmaking was a kind of a surprise. Nobody expected it to be that level out. It was good. He was a good passer, but he's turned out to be, outside of those top tier wings, he's the best one of the better playmaking wings in the NBA. So, to me, it's just health. He's got to stay on the floor. He's my favorite player. I'm even fed up with it. It's like, dude, you got to play. You got to play. It's been lamented ad nauseum, in Pelicans discourse about the upcoming financial burdens the team may face. So that's the other part of it. They're all those contracts are taking time bomb. I thought they got Herb at a great deal based on what I saw. I saw Dylan Brooks, and I was like, "Woo, Herb, that's a discount." I actually think Herb is a better defender. Dylan is just more demonstrative, and brings it. He has the wrestling shtick, the wrestling gimmick shtick, so more attention to it. But I just think Herb is a better defender, so they got Herb at a good deal. But CJ's extension, BI's extension. It's pretty obvious Trey Murphy's going to be a $100 million player when the time comes. So,
easy.
You got to show ownership that, okay, we're going to pay small market. She got that football money. So you got to show this is a contender. You can pay for this team.
Yeah. We're going to talk a little bit more on Brandon's individual game, and then we'll move on to some national team roster talk, which will be fun.
Right. Yeah.
What do you think, in the perspective of him taking an additional leap outside of just him playing more games, just as an individual, as a hooper on the floor? If I remember correctly, last year when we talked, last offseason, we spoke about he had to be a better defender, right? He had to be a better defender. He had to get stronger. Those were some of the things we talked about. But just as a player, what do you think he needs to get better at now when he is on the floor? What are some other? Are there any weaknesses that you see? Is anything you would like to see him do more? Just actually from a coaching perspective.
You'd like to see the 3-point volume go up. A lot of that goes hand in hand with Zion playing because, in order to get the shot, somebody's got to create them for him. So Zion has a lot of gravity. That would go a long way towards making that go up. I'd actually like to see him get more aggressive when the game starts teetering. I think the definition of clutch for me is a little different. Added in that as further or even beyond just being a late game guy, can you stop other teams' runs? I think the biggest thing, Mike, Kobe, LeBron, the all-timers, not saying Brandon's up there, I'm just saying just a trait they have, when that other teams on that 12-2, 8-0 run, the shift in the game, can they get a couple buckets, make a couple plays to, shift the momentum? I think that's a very underrated trait in a star player. You like to see that a little more. It's kind of like, something that's unstated. Just want to see him affect the game in those teetering moments a little more. But something tangibly is definitely the 3-point volume. You want to see that in an uptick. A lot of that has to do with Zion playing. I don't know if the pull-up three just based on, how Brandon shoots the ball. I don't know if that's, something that's conceivable for him to just start taking a lot of pull-up threes. Even though he has the length for it. I don't know just the way he shoots the ball.
Mechanically, it doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't when he's hot, he'll do it. He hit a couple against Phoenix in the playoffs, a couple pull-up threes. When he's in rhythm and he's hot, he'll do it. But I don't think it's just like a staple of his his offensive game. I like to see him get to the rack more. Again, that goes with the roster construction, paint being clogged. I've lamented all these things for years. Praying about him taking pull-up jumpers. You got 4 bodies in the paint. I was like, what do you want him to do? He's not prime LeBron where I'm just going in there. So, a lot of things are related to each other. What you want from him, and you can say we want this from Brandon. Your second follow-up question is the roster construction or what's on the floor set up for him to achieve, that goal? I think you have to ask those questions hand in hand.
One of the things I think he improved on before we get to the national team last year is, especially late in the year, he was very aggressive in getting to the rim. And it got to a point to where, we watched so many games before, him being frustrated, not getting foul calls, and it being clear whistles that maybe should have went his way that didn't. Well, last year, late in the year, when the team, when he was healthy and he was fully in rhythm, it just didn't matter. He finished through the contact. He got to the free throw line.
Yeah, big up there. Yeah,
I mean, there was a lot of strong finishes. You could see the offseason work of working on his body kind of play into his hand more and more. And he stopped looking at the ref to bail him out. He just realized, these are the cards that I'm dealt. This is what I'm looking at. They're not calling. I'm going to make them either make the call or I'm going to find a way to make this happen. And maybe that's dunking on a few folks. Maybe that's a few layups around the rim. I mean, specifically, again, in that Clippers game, you go back and you watch that third quarter. When he starts to go off, a lot of it is just getting to the rim consistently over and over with multiple bodies standing in his way. The Clippers daring other guys outside of Trey Murphy and CJ McCollum to make shots, man. So, yeah, man. So I think and looking at some of the pictures now, as we talk about this national team, it looks like he's added more weight.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I believe David Griffin said is that the best benefit from him playing with this team is spending so much time in preparation for these FIBA games is that the fact that he just hasn't stopped playing competitive basketball. He hasn't stopped, right? He's going to have the opportunity by the time training camp and the season starts. There is no slow down. He's diving right into his career, his job. He's diving right into a pivotal year for him. And maybe that will help for a dude that he's had some freak injuries, but, he's had some minor tweaks of things that, we hope that he can kind of stay away from and fight through maybe his body having to go through, this Olympic style run. Maybe it'll be good for him. especially at that age. I hope so, at least.
I agree. That's the funniest thing. You know why? The 1 year they've been healthy is when Stan ran him into the ground. So I think there's definitely something to that. And, Van Gundy even said it, when he was, I'm probably sure it was defending, himself as a coach, which is human nature.
Yeah.
They don't push their bodies, off the court like they used to. So when you try to ramp right up into that 100% bump, it's different. You know what I mean? So
100.
I think there's something to that. The 1 year Zion and B have been able to stay on the court, Stan ran him ragged. There were reports, they hated his long, grueling practices, but they played. Yeah,
they played, right?
So yeah, there's something to what you just said, 100%.
All right, now let's talk about this national team roster.
Yes, sir. I'm excited for these games, man. Real talk.
Me too, man. It's a lot of really good talent, man. It's a lot of players, and not just on the USA team, on a lot of other countries that are going to be going at it. And I think it's right around the time that right before you really start diving into training camps and preseason. I think you could be looking. Listen, and you got a lot of guys, on this list of them be playing that have things to prove, right?
Yeah.
And are auditioning in some respects for maybe bigger roles or being able to show off what they've worked on in the summer, with some messaging to prove. But on this roster, you got Paolo, you got Mikal Bridges, you got B.I., Jalen Brunson, Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton, Jaren Jackson Jr. There's some other really solid role players on this list. Your guy, Austin Reeves, on here as well. But who's the best player on this team?
I would lean Ant at this point. B.I. in a close second.
Okay.
The nerds are going to say Mikal Bridges. They are. I know that's what they're saying. Maybe Brunson.
Is that what they said?
I'm sure that's what they are. I ain't been on X in a minute, so I ain't been on Twitter X in a minute, but I'm sure that's what they're saying. But I'm sure it's Ant, followed by B.I. I actually think this is kind of tailor made for him. The shorter 3-point line is up his alley. He loves operating in between. Also playing with other great players. It'd be less of a phone booth to play in as well. Mm-hmm. So we can display some of that. Possibly getting ready to play with Zion, playing with a little more open space. So I think I'm excited for it, man. But I would say Ant, B.I. in a close second. I think what Ant is, probably something I should have mentioned when you asked me, I want B.I. to be better. Ant has a level on defense that he goes to on the ball where he can just kind of hound you. And it's weird because when I watch B.I., it's like he has good instincts defensively. You just don't see him apply the
it's not sometimes he's going to the
it's the defensive effort is very T-Mac-ish. When you see the body and the length and the tools and the IQ, it's like there's a good defender in there. But it's like,
ironically, if anybody knows about the level that Ant goes to defensively, you look at that final game that they played against Timberwolves.
Oh, yep.
Brandon goes. He I think he had 20 or close to 20 in the first quarter. Then the T-Wolves implode. It's such a crazy game. The T-Wolves implode. Gobert and Kyle Anderson are fighting. McDaniels, who had the Brandon assignment, punches a wall or something and is out for the rest of the year. And then it's left an Ant. Ant goes and guards Brandon in some of the, I would say, I've seen some other quality performances. Maybe the second Laker game, Vanderbilt, but a lot of that was also structured and bracketed.
I'm about to say,
behind. It's this. You gotta throw that in there. But you gotta look at Karl Anthony Towns hadn't been back for I think more than just a couple 3 games at that point. And we know his reputation defensively. Your rim protector is out, and Rudy Gobert, and Ed didn't care. He gave B.I. one of his toughest battles as a matchup that I've seen, and whether he was forcing turnovers, tough shots, wasn't fouling. I mean, that was great to watch. So yeah, I agree with you, man. Bringing that intensity, at least in certain moments against guys on the other side of the floor, as the leader of the team, right? If you are that guy,
it's inspiring.
Yeah,
it's inspiring. When your best player does that, it's inspiring.
Yeah. 2 questions and we out of here. First one is, what do you think? What's the best thing you think that Brandon's going to be able to grasp from playing in this environment? How do you think it's going to help him once the NBA season picks off?
I think playing for Kerr, I think the defensive principles, staying locked in off the ball defensively, I think that that's something that can be picked up. Also, I for one also do believe Brandon's taken a great leap in this too as well. But playing off the ball, he's gotten way better at that, I believe. But I think just even more so with Kerr, just figuring out, understanding, when to cut, how to come off screens more efficiently, things like that. A lot of the Warriors principles that they use to, generating rim pressure with the cut and screening. I think him being involved in that is going to be, pay dividends. And then just being on that stage, of competing for something that matters that heavily after kind of a disappointing season. I think that also will be, will kind of slingshot him into having possibly a career year. It's no secret the FIBA jump, it's been documented well after guys play a summer, they come into the season and, generally have a career year or a much better year than they had previously, which for Brandon would be, opposed to 24.7, maybe 26, 27, along with the rebounds and the assists. And, for all the stuff about can him and Zion get the usage, you can have two, Kawhi and Paul George do it. LeBron and AD did it. You know what I mean? Tatum and Brown did it. You know what I mean? You can have two high volume guys to get their touches, especially with the way the Pelicans they do play with pace. Guys are unselfish, so it's possible for them to both be happy with the offensive vibe. Even though I don't think either cares really. If you generally they care, but they don't care, if that makes sense. Like if they win it, they're not tripping.
And I think it's good. Brandon he doesn't have a reputation of traditionally working out with other opposing players. Kind of stands in his own bubble, in his own cave. You don't see him on videos working out in the off season with other guys. Not only is he working, has he been working around other professionals, other high talented players. He's working with guys that have things that he wants, and he's doing it in what's going to be a very competitive method. I mean, I think that's just great, man. Getting those competitive juices flowing earlier in such an important year for him. That's going to, get him and his family the biggest deal that he ever dreamed of. one way or another. I think he's handling it the right way, and we'll see how it all ends. We'll wrap up here, man. It's actually a 2-part question. If Brandon Ingram plays 65 games, the New Orleans Pelicans blank.
We'll win 50 games.
If Brandon Ingram plays 65 games, Brandon Ingram will blank.
Be an all-NBA player.
Ooh, that's what I wanted to see if you were doing that, man. All right, well, as always, man, I appreciate it, brother, man. We've been trying to put this together forever. You off the grid now, so I can't even tell people where to follow you at no more. Like, you just pop up where you pop up now.
Yeah. I will be back on the app in the fall. I'm not going to give the username. It will be a little private account. New Orleans Pelicans Twitter, go through Chris. If he pushes you through, I will approve. He will be my proxy for everything Twitter based. Not football though. I can't deal with them Saints, man. I can't deal with them
Saints. All right, man. All right, well, man, appreciate you as always, man. That was the latest episode here of In Space, guys. If y'all have not already, the Jonas Valanciunas. By the time this episode comes out, Jonas Valanciunas show with Lito, as well as the latest Trey Murphy show, will have already been out. So like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, call a friend. Najee, get us out of here.
In the building. I told you last time, get with us or get out of here, man.